Right. I like how it reminds even myself, having initiated the recording, that it's being recorded, and ask if I want to leave. I guess it doesn't know who really initiated it because it's a handoff to a third party, and then anyhow.
And on that note,
happy Friday, everybody.
Happy Friday.
We're in that wonderful lull between summer and stuff. Although that being said, I don't expect these calls will actually get much more crowded. The potential Australian volunteers never, although we spoke with one of them and communicated with multiple ones, I think they decided that this was not what they wanted to sign up for, and that's fine. But it means that they will not be joining this space. Also, Michelle, this all implicates your office hours because there's, that you don't have to think about keeping it open for Australians, and then also there might not be the same amount of people here on these spaces there'll still be people in the Teams channel, hopefully, and as we start working on more stuff, people will pop up. It won't quite be the same.
I have actually.
But you remember from last year, right?
Yeah, I do.
We've been doing this now.
It's true, for a little while. I have actually gotten some people coming to office hours. They're not our students, but I have gotten a couple of people coming to office hours, but not as early as 7:30. So I think I'm going to at least bump it to 8:30, and then if I want to work in the garden in the nice cool morning, I can go do that kind of thing. And then if people say they're interested in an earlier time, then I can do whatever. But and I might shorten the office hours on Thursday a bit.
Well, that makes sense. Well, why don't we go ahead? Why don't we go ahead and we'll just go around and see what people got. So Bryce, what's up with you?
Yeah. So I beginning of this week added the case, the ability to get old existing cases in Tyler's thing, and just did sort of the bare minimum on that, and then realized that a thing that would be necessary for us to actually integrate into interviews and would be a good thing that is pinchable off of is just actually being able to show the interviews. And so I sort of told Quentin about that, and we sort of did just some basic back and forth on what was what needed to be done there. And from what I guess Quentin can talk more about how it's going for that. But then I sort of just realized that it would be good to finish off the rest of that, the Tyler or the REST API for the Tyler stuff, which there was already a skeleton on the DocAssembly side, and there's sort of there were various parts of skeletons on the Java side, and it just needed to be done. And so I tackled that, and I'm getting close to the point where there's only the more involved, complicated API calls, like creating payment accounts where we have to do the pass off to Tyler's gateway, payment gateway stuff, and the review filing, which is just the send everything, and that's all that's in. But I just don't have here's the test that proves that it works to Tyler, and so I'm getting close to wrapping up all the other smaller ones that will just be some script that will run, and then I think the next, I'm still trying to figure out what exactly.
So we got to put a face on it for them to kick tires.
Yeah, I'm thinking that it's probably best if I look at exactly if I personally try and go through, okay, this is what Tyler's going to do during certification, and try and do that. And there's definitely going to be parts that I just completely missed, and I'll go through and do that. And then hopefully once I can go through and do certification myself and be okay, this is good, there are definitely going to be things that I missed, and if you do it this way, it just doesn't work. And so I might try and pass it off to you or Quentin, of just here's the sheet that Tyler has given us that says they're going to make a user, and then they're going to change the password, and we can have the admin interview that Quentin's made, and just see how well it would work from the Tyler perspective, and see what we need to polish, what else we need to do. But all that to say, I'm trying to wrap up that as much as I can, so we can at least reach out to Tyler and get it scheduled, even if we're still doing additional work into integrating it into interviews. Because I think it would be, we don't have necessarily like a like interview that's integrated, but it would be super easy to make a quick and dirty, like obviously not production interview that Tyler can do, that says like, here's what we're actually going to, you can do everything, but actually make filings. Here's what you're going to do to make a filing. It's going to be a, like, obviously not production ready interview that looks like a normal interview, but we could do in like a day and would hit all the steps that we need and be like, oh, if you want to change what case it is, you have to go into this part, etc. That was a long series of words to say. I've just been like writing API endpoints for the entire week. But I'm getting close to
that's
wrapping it
good.
up, so.
That's good. It sounds nice. And here we are, and it's not yet September, so that's all good. Good.
My
good
goal
stuff.
is to like reach out to Tyler before September. So I would like to go hard.
Right. Well, you
That's
can do that. So yeah, cool. All right, Michelle.
Still struggling with a fair amount of health stuff, plus, so, but done some, mostly like some basic CSS work, some stuff going on for Code for Boston. But I've got another person dipping into the testing framework, which is taking some onboarding, understandably. But I've looked into how to set up organizations to test their interviews. There's some leads there. I think it's possible with the API. I need to understand what information I can get back to display to the organization so that it will trigger individual test runs. But I need to get back the information that is outputted to show the organization test whether it has passed or failed. And I'm thinking of doing that through a package that an organization would install on their server. So it can use configs in DocAssembly, which I assume admins would be more familiar with than the GitHub interface. But let me know if I'm off on that. And I've worked a little with Eleni on setting up a process for the 209A tests that she's making for making them automatable in the future. Very cool. Trying to think of anything else. Just some office
They'll sound like good things.
Yeah. So yeah, I had some converting to AL document stuff, which I think one of the points of confusion is the, slice I for AL documents. For when you make the attachments, the variable name has slice I, and I think that is something that I've seen people struggling with a bit. So we might want to think about how to communicate that. Yeah, I think that's it.
All right, cool. Quentin.
All right, so the Aleo form, the fee waiver, I think is pretty much done, waiting to get feedback from Matt. And I might go ahead and start, maybe in a branch, I'm not sure how it will work, try to copy over some of the Tyler API integration piece. Bryce, if I looked at is there a good place to see a model of that? I just realized, since Matt said that you weren't on the one that he'd finished, that probably means it's not in that branch. But if there's somewhere where I can look at your code that you did, look it up, I'll copy that.
Which one has he done? I'm pretty sure I've been pushing my changes, but it's maybe.
You did the appearance. Right? But I thought that was the one that you had integrated with Tyler, but maybe I'm wrong.
Oh, it's an MSU. Yeah, it is the appearance. And I thought that I had, did I force
Be in
this?
a
No.
fork or something?
I just never, there's a small chance, I guess I just never pushed it, which is weird.
Oh,
I thought I
okay.
did. In that case, I have a completely local branch where I've integrated all of this stuff.
Cool.
But the at least what I tried to make it, or actually, the actual calls and stuff to Tyler are exactly the same as Amanda's name change form, which is public and like is merged.
Oh, okay.
The only thing that is different is like there's essentially just more Tyler, like more extra variables that I'm just defining in like an initial mandatory code block. It's stuff like the like it's a lot of stuff that like eventually I don't think should go there, but like just for purposes of speed makes sense. Like, oh, this is the Tyler category name and this is the Tyler category like or like case type name and stuff like that, which then we use to like get the actual like numerical thing. I'm not storing the numerical thing. It's just stuff like, oh, this is an appearance, this is in this particular case category, and stuff like that. And it's not even the right values because I was trying to find something I could do an initial filing instead of a subsequent filing.
Okay.
But
so, well, that's okay for, I think for this, well, let's see. This might go in either, I suppose, initial or could go in either one really, but okay. Cool. Well, I feels like a really good place to start with, and especially if we're not, well, I can probably track down the missing pieces, but if I saw like the basic outline, I'd be able to start with that. So did you end up getting permissions to appearance? I think
no.
Can't remember if Annie did.
I can't tell. I can't see any like settings on the repo, so I don't know if I have.
So Matt, you might need to add.
Yeah, you might need to do that. Worst case, I can just fork the repo and I can I'll push my branch there and just say like, here's the branch.
Yeah, that makes sense too. Okay. All right. So yeah, that was the one thing, and I don't know where that is in the priority, but I think I can work on that, and it'll be good to have like one more thing. It'll probably help us flesh out questions about proxy and stuff. So it's probably good. It's probably worth doing. And then been working on the cases API, which we think we'll need for this form. And we realized that the Tyler data that it sends back is just really weird. So like you do a case search, which seems like a important thing. And then you don't get any data back about the cases. You just like basically get the same data you sent in for the search. So
you get enough. I think the key part that they probably want you to do is that you get the like case ID, or at least like the tracking ID in Tyler's system. And so they probably just want you to look up more about that in there. Like once you have, oh, these are the IDs.
Really, it's an ID lookup. You do a search, the ID lookup, and you have to use the ID to ping to get more information.
Does that sort of seems like what it's doing, right?
Yeah. So if we have 10 results, we have to do 11 queries, which is a little bit annoying for speed, but I think it's probably fine. So I'm going to try to work on that. And then it's led to some good, interesting thoughts about like how do we want to model cases? I just realized like basically we're saying is how do we model an ECF case in Python? And it's a question we can defer, because actually cases and representing cases is kind of far away from what our deliverables are for the end of September, I think. It's just like this little piece of like, you need to look up the case to know what case you're filing in, but we're not building out that feature a ton. So, but it could help on both sides, I suppose. Like we could file a case, but we're not really doing that. We're filing documents into an existing case. Like the only time we have to model is when we do a retrieval or a search. So it's not important, but it still is interesting. And I think it has implications for our standard.
It is important. It's just not urgent.
Yes, that's right. It's important, but not urgent. For the court, so there were some good threads on the DocAssembly, and then I posted a thread on Twitter. And so I think we're going to have like a conversation after this grant is turned in October to get more information about modeling cases and courts rather, and court information, and what case can handle what court can handle what type of case, what is the jurisdiction of a given court. And towards that end, I had a good conversation with Damien Real, who's at Fastcase and who's in charge of building out their LMSS standard.
Well, I think technically that's at Sally. And
That's
Fastgate might be a member, and
Fastgate
yes,
is a member of Valley, yeah. So that was good. He gave me a little tour today, and even though I've been looking at the like adding comments, even, but there's still a lot I learned from him explaining how it all works. So one of the things I realized, again, yeah, we're handling all these case types. We're only doing Illinois with Tyler right now, but Bryce, are any of the case types different across different courts, like the naming convention they used for the case types, like between Cook County and the rest of the state? Is that one of the differences? I wonder if it's even ready, if we should start thinking now about syncing those up with the LMSS release candidate, because they have what they call them are objectives. And that basically would map right onto our case types. And then we could have a more abstracted way to deal with, you know, this court calls a restraining order for a domestic violence case X, and this one calls it Y, but there's just one LMSS code for it. Would be really nice.
I think I get the question, and there's some small changes. This is where like my lack of legal knowledge gets in the way, and I've like seen a lot of like there's essentially Tyler gives you the chance to have different or like courts to support different cases, and there are some various like mild differences in the names between cases. Like here I'm in the case like types right now, or like I'm able to, or I'm like doing a query on like the database that we have of all these. Let me just order them so I can see the mild differences. There's I can't ever tell if like some of the actual differences in namings are just differences between courts or if they're actually different things. Like there's construction of construction of inter vivos trust, construction of testamentary trust, construction of wills, different thing. There's construct / testamentary trust. Like they seem like they should be the same thing sometimes, but they're just slightly different names. And I need to do a bit. We have the ability to do like a bit more diving into what exactly or how that is different between court to court. But I just haven't had I don't quite have the expertise to know what would be meaningfully different. But I think it's a good idea to at least have a better idea of how they're all different. And would be willing to like work with one of y'all too to dive into that more when we want to.
Yeah, and it's definitely one of the things where it doesn't have to happen now, but it does. If we ever are in a situation where like here's one different codes even within one jurisdiction, I know what we're going to run into when we go into other jurisdictions, because I imagine those are like one-to-one mappings for whatever their underlying case management system is, right? Like they're not doing any extra modeling. They're saying like, you give us a list of codes and we'll say what codes to file in, and then the person who files has to know what code to choose.
Yeah.
But to whatever extent, like it will help us to model those so that we can have our Weaver, you select from the code in the Weaver and it will map to the same type of case in every court, everywhere in the country. Would be kind of cool. So
yeah.
If we ever, it's not urgent and we're not probably ready to implement it, but it's something we should start to think about, like where we'd want to do those kind of mappings. And Sally, LMS is all OWL RDF. And
what were those acronyms again?
OWL and RDF. So the ontology web markup language, it's not quite right because it's OWL. So there's no M in it. So.
Okay.
What is it? Semantic. It's a standard for building web ontologies. Oh, I guess it's probably French or something. Web ontology language. And that's why they're reversed in order. It's my guess. Maybe they just liked OWL instead of WOL. I'm not sure. But there's some places where like we need to implement this if we thought about it in RDF and ODL terms, it might help us down the line when we're like wanting to chain up to get to standard. But anyway, it looks like actually I hadn't dove into that part of LMSS, but it looks really robust. And David, as you pointed that out, you'd already probably knew that, but it's definitely more robust than what we get from the Stanford classification system. So
No list, yeah.
Set from list, yeah.
Yeah, I like to think of list as a subset of the Sally stuff, but sort of the SLR,
So is
self-represented litigant, like
I think I missed
centered
this.
version.
Is LMSS the Sally stuff?
That's the Sally
Yes.
stuff. Yeah,
Okay.
I know it's a lot of letters and
There's a
acronyms.
lot.
Sorry, but sometimes I don't know a better way to call LMSS, for example, than just
I
Yeah,
also
yeah.
feel like they're getting good traction as
Yeah.
far as any of these things go. So, and the fact that they seem to be a superset of everyone else makes me
Mhm.
think they're the ones to be working with.
They're talking to other partners, and like they're people who've signed on already, right? Like Microsoft and Lexis, and I don't remember if I heard him say Westlaw is adopting any of it. But like, for example, like you could search on Lexis with an IRI code that comes from LMSS. So that's something that like their relationship they're building. So like, I think it does really feel like the place for us to integrate if we're trying to pick a standard to use. And the only other thing is, okay, so I got back some designs for up to code from Theory and Principle, which look really nice and great, but we don't pay them to give us the mock-ups. And so now I have to figure out like, how can I do this and we're out of budget? So
Can I get a look at them?
yeah.
Can you link them somewhere?
Yep. That would be fine. Yeah, I don't think we've quite selected which of the mock-ups we're going to go with, but
Sure.
a couple different pieces, some nice ideas for how to clean up some of the displays in DocAssembly. And then there are going to be some static landing pages too, which those actually feel like they're a lot simpler because then it doesn't really matter how we implement them. We just have to, I might even outsource something like that to one of the very many vendors who will take a mock-up and turn it into a static website.
And I think that this is for the mass access, right?
No, this is for
Assembly line
no.
Is
It might inform assembly line, but it has nothing to do with, it's just because it's a DocAssembly project that uses the assembly line framework.
okay.
It might,
okay.
and we don't have any design really on our sites.
It
It just
could
might be
inform
really
us.
informative and helpful. And we might be able to borrow things like changing the color scheme so it's unique, but still thinking through some of the elements that they built or designed and told us we should.
Yeah. I think Aleo is doing something similar too, and they maybe could, share what their discussions with on that. That might be helpful too.
They have a designer. I know they have some colors, but doesn't look like they customized too much of the.
I think they haven't done it yet. I'm saying they will be doing it, I believe. And since that is using assembly line to a great degree, that might, like,
Sound
and the
close.
download tables and stuff like that, that might give us some insights.
Yeah,
We'll take all the insights.
That's pretty much it for me. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, cool. Caroline.
I'm just drowning. That's all.
Mhm.
I keep finding a little problem I think I can fix, and then it just opens this huge can of worms. So that's kind of where I am right now. I'm just trying to
Mhm.
figure out what should I actually be spending my time on right now. But
Well, we're glad you had time to hop on with us so we can at least say hi.
I'm not gonna stick around for casual Friday. Just got too much to do. But I figured I'd at least show my face. I don't even know what happened Tuesday.
I am curious what where we think, and maybe this has all been reached some type of final state that I'm not aware of, but I'm curious, where do we stand with all the translation work that was being done for the 209A? And
Oh, so Quentin and I are planning on doing, we've got the translations for the MLH, and I'm sort of slogging through getting those posted, but you don't want to, you do one language at a time because and then Quentin and I talked earlier this week about attacking the spreadsheet, doing the, I think we're pretty much ready to go. When we did a couple weeks ago, we did a Teaching Tuesday and it didn't work. And Quentin was doing some little fixes to the spreadsheet at the time. And then I was supposed to be working on something. This is just the way I work. Whatever I'm supposed to be working on, I work on something else. So I was playing around with the spreadsheets, not, avoiding doing something else. And I thought, oh, I'll just waste my time and take out all these extraneous rows in the Excel spreadsheet that, Quentin took out. Lo and behold, that was the issue that stopped the import. So I really think that we can probably pretty quickly, I hope everything I thought was supposed to be quick this week has turned out else. But I think this is one of those things that we can pretty quickly just do. So I think I may try it this weekend without Quentin, and then we can, if I run into problems, we can do it. But I can't remember the two. I think we had Spanish and Portuguese. That's what we were working with. And I put those into, I think I pushed them to GitHub after I got them to work. And we also have Chinese and Vietnamese, but we might want to, then there was the two little things that we had to do in the attachment block. But they're pretty close to done. I mean, very close to done it, because we were successful with the Portuguese and the Spanish. So that's one good piece of news.
It is. I also think that once we get those translations up as in aggregate, that's a nice time to then do another push.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah.
I'm just looking at it. I don't see, well, it might be in a branch that just didn't pop up yet. But Michelle, you have a couple of PRs outstanding on there, but there's no reviewer. But maybe you can just merge them if they're just for the test. I'm not sure how to.
Yeah.
So you might
I
just
thought
want
I
to
added reviewers. That's weird. Okay.
But I don't know if anyone could really, if it needs a review, if you're just adding the test. That would be my recommendation, maybe.
What I thought I had indicated there was that someone needed to check that the PDF had come out correctly, but we may have to rerun it now to see if the PDF is correct, because it may have forgotten that.
That's
by now.
Okay.
So that reminds me, actually, that's the other thing we have to do for the translations. I can't remember if we talked about this, Quentin, on this week or another time, but for the translations, the court has translated the 209A forms. So I think I don't know if you want to do this I think really we probably ought to provide so we have a whole bunch of PDFs that need to be labeled. That's the other outstanding piece of the 209A translations.
Does that seem like a good project maybe for some of the fellows or new lab students to try to work on? What do you think, David? It's like it's a specific skill that you can practice a lot, and that's not too hard to learn.
Yeah.
We had to get people some feet wet. And they'll get to see the results of their work relatively quickly, because it's in an existing project.
The only issue is for the fellows, that practice area the 209 doesn't overlap with any of our existing fellow clinics. Okay. We could think about it for the lab, and we could even think about it with the lab, because we were thinking about the 258E. So if we thought about the 258E and 209A as sort of analogous overlapping projects.
If you can't find anybody to do it, it's just occurred to me right now. I'm not sure, but I have to check with Rochelle. She's on vacation, but Mariah does do some clavic work, and that's something Mariah, she hasn't done a lot of these things, but it's not a hard thing to pick up. And if we're just looking for somebody to do it, I think she could get paid to do it. I think the clavic, I could check with her about it. I don't know what her schedule is like, and because she only works part-time, blah, 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 but she's pretty good at being, doing those kinds of things consistently. And it would be fairly straightforward, right? Because she just has to get the PDF, make it fillable, and run it through the Weaver, right? Or she has to, I can't remember at what point.
Through the Weaver at all. We'll use the exact same, basically we'll copy the attachment block. I don't know another way to do that. And although we might want to abstract it just so we can keep updating things. But the simplest way would be to copy the attachment block and just have the exact same fields as on.
Right.
form.
right, on the,
We could make it
whatchamacallit.
we could make it a YAML a dictionary, right? And then just put code in the fields. I think that's
Potentially, but
possible.
potentially, but we might have to reformat a lot of the logic that's in there, depending on what the specific logic is. So like if we did that, then we would not be able to mix in Mako tags the way that if we're using Mako tags. So it would have to be changed there. And it might not be a good copying and pasting it means two places to update it. But on the other hand, we might break the working code by trying to change the way the English one works. So that was the other option I was thinking of, but I don't know if that's a good choice.
But this is just the creating fields and naming them on the PDF, right?
Yeah, that's really all we have to do. And then to integrate it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, it does. It's already so close to the edge for how long it takes to generate. It'll probably break once we add, 6 more translated documents to get turned into a PDF. But
Is it because there's so much to do? Is that why it's just so long?
there are a lot of reasons why the code is
Oh.
slow. But yeah, but if it goes over 30 seconds, then it will error out. So we have to maybe. I'm still not sure the best way for us to move that to the background, but we might need to move that higher priority before we can launch it. That kind of tells me like maybe we just launch with the interview in English, but the documents in Spanish rather, and the documents in English still for a while until we figure
Well,
out.
I mean, I don't know how this works, but we have in the past decided we weren't going to give people 2 downloads, remember? And I don't know if separating it into 2 downloads would be easier, but I think in this case, it might make sense to have it 2 downloads because you don't file the translations with the court. And I don't know if 2 downloads would
I think that's
make
actually
a
the
difference.
problem. I think that's actually the problem is you have those additional documents. Whereas
Well,
before you
that
I
it
think
could be
she's
one
suggesting you could
huge
do one or
download.
the other.
Yeah.
It could actually help us because then we could just defer the processing of the translations to its own background task.
Yeah,
Actually
yeah.
might work. It would be its own bundle, basically, is what you're
Right.
saying for the
Yeah.
Spanish version of everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it only Spanish they've translated, or did they do more languages?
No, they've done all of them, I think.
Oh,
I think
great.
I think they may even have done more languages. I haven't checked recently.
More than we have.
They may have done more languages than we've done because we didn't have enough money to do all of them.
Okay. Well, yeah, it would be really nice to have that, I think, and it's the problem we already have to solve, but I'm trying to decide when.
At
we're
what
likely to solve
point?
it.
Yeah.
Probably not till after October, for sure.
Mhm.
Agreed. Everyone wants to put something on the plate before October.
What's happening in October, or is just September?
September
Is
30th is our grant deadline.
when is it?
Yeah.
October 30th?
September 30th.
September
September
deadline.
30th. All right.
So October, we suddenly will have a new grant, hopefully, but also
Yeah.
we'll have a longer deadline.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, we have a lot of due dates. The 30th is September 30th, the big due date.
All right.
All right. Well, cool. Anything else anyone wants to talk about stand-up-y? In that case, I'm gonna go ahead and